Hi guys, it's Steph here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here to share with you my holiday Booktubeathon wrap up. Earlier this week I should have shared my second half of December book wrap up, so I'll leave a link to that up below. This is the books that I read after I finished those ones. There were 3 reading challenges for this readathon and I'm going to go through those. I did actually read some extra books, so I'm super excited. I read a grand total of 6 books in 3 days. It's the holidays, so I had a lot of time to read and a lot of downtime, so it was good. I'm going to share with you what I finished off at the end of December. If you see a little dog's head stick up, that's because my dog has fallen asleep in my lap. So the first challenge was to read a book with your favourite colour on the front cover. So I read Third Time Lucky by Carly Lane because I love pink and there's pink in the top and I don't have any other pink books. And this is something that I've been meaning to read. This is an Australian contemporary fiction novel. It is a romance novel as well. And I absolutely loved this. I wasn't expecting to, but I really enjoyed this. It was a quick read, it was a fun read. It is about December Doyle, who has moved back to her hometown of Christmas Creek in rural Victoria, and she's gone back home because her husband was killed in a car accident and he left her with a mountain of debt that she wasn't aware of, and she's trying to pick up the pieces of her life surrounded by her family. A couple of years after she moves home, her former teenage boyfriend, Seth Hunter, returns to Christmas Creek, and he's got a huge grudge against the townspeople because they were really tough on him as a kid because he came from a family on the wrong side of the tracks. Now he's a respectable, very wealthy businessman, and he is buying up businesses in Christmas Creek, and they're none too happy about it. And this is the story of how their paths cross again. It is fantastic and fun, and I definitely enjoyed this. So I think I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'll definitely be checking out some more of Carly Lane's books as well in the future because I was not expecting to enjoy this as much as I did. The second prompt was to read a book from a genre that you discovered this year, and my book for this challenge was Finding Wonders by Janine Atkins, which is a book of stories about 3 female scientists from different times in history following different scientific streams. So one following life cycles of insects and nature, and one following a girl who was very curious about archaeology and digging up fossils, and the second is about a female astronomer. This entire book is told through prose, so every story is told through poetry, and it was simply beautiful to read. There were so many wonderful little sections that I absolutely love, little quotes and bits and pieces. I really enjoyed this. If you haven't read it, I do highly recommend that you pick it up. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It was just nice to find out about 3 female scientists who I'd never heard about, and I was able to go and look them up afterwards as well. The next book that I read was for the third challenge, and that was to read a book that was gifted to you, and I read The Life and Death of Sophie Stark by Anna North. This book reminded me a little bit of Radiance by Catherine M. Valente, which I read earlier in the month, because this is also a book about the death of a director. The entire book is told from the perspective of 6 people who knew and loved Sophie Stark, so we never actually get Sophie's perspective. This was really interesting to read. The whole premise is that, you know, Sophie Stark was sort of this director who created films that were larger than life and told these really true stories, and she was very good at directing. But in her personal life, you know, this ability to create these films come at a really huge cost for herself personally, and her ability to interact with other people and to connect with other people. I just really enjoyed it, and I loved finding out about a character from the perspective of other people because they all brought a slightly different perspective to Sophie's character. I read it in pretty much one sitting. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'll leave a link to it down below so you can check out the summary. Because I'd finished those 3 books in the first couple of days, I also picked up a second book that was gifted to me, and that was the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, which is a book told through letters and telegrams, and it is a historical fiction. The people who live on Guernsey were occupied by the Germans during World War II, and Juliet starts conversing with different members of this literary and potato peel pie society group who live there. And it's really heartwarming, you know, for talking about such terrible times in the world. This book was strangely uplifting and quite happy. Like, I never felt so overwhelmed by the events that happened during World War II that I couldn't enjoy this book. This is not a book I would have picked up for myself. It was gifted to me, and I'm so glad that I finally read it. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Just a great, interesting historical fiction read. Then I read To Capture What We Cannot Keep by Patrice Collin, which was a book that was sent to me unsolicited from Alan and Unwin. I don't have a copy of the book because I've lent it to someone else to read, but it is a historical fiction romance set in Paris around the time that the Eiffel Tower was being built, and it follows the story of Kate, who is a Scottish widower who is sent to Paris to be the chaperone of two young Scottish siblings, Alice and Jamie. It follows her encounters with one of the architects and engineers for the Eiffel Tower, Emile, and I can't even say his last name, but I'm just going to call him Emile. It really deals with society's expectations. It deals with priority, and it was an interesting read. I'm not a huge historical fiction reader in general, so it took me a little while to get into it, and I'm also not all that familiar with European history. In that regard, it was quite interesting to read because Therese Collin actually sets the tone really well, so you really feel like you're there, and the atmosphere is beautiful and the writing style is gorgeous. Kate as a character started off really well. For a chaperone, she doesn't take very good care of her charges, and I know that Alice and Jamie were, very young people and made some really poor decisions while they were living in Paris, but Kate didn't really offer them all that much support in the way of preventing them from making some really bad decisions. It's a book that's told from two perspectives. Kate was one of them, Emile was the other. I much preferred reading Emile's perspective, but at the same time, he doesn't make very good choices either. In the end, I gave it about 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it. If you like historical fiction and romance books, you're probably going to enjoy it. Again, like I said, it's not particularly my genre, but for what it was worth, I did enjoy it. The last book that I finished was Shatter Me by Tahira Murphy. This book is really popular on Booktube, and I can sort of understand why. It's a young adult dystopian with science fiction elements woven into it. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it's definitely not the best young adult book I've read this year. It follows the story of Juliet, who is unable to touch anyone without causing them excruciating pain. So it's a bit like Rogue from the X-Men. She's been institutionalized for a few years, and suddenly she's taken out of the institution by a man named Warner. Warner wants her to use her powers to torture other people to keep everyone in line, whereas Juliet is, vehemently against that. It's about how she connects with one of the soldiers, Adam, and tries to find a way out of Warner's control. Now, I know that this is a much-loved book on Booktube. I found that the language was really hard to get into. Tahira Murphy writes with a very interesting style. It's not necessarily bad, it was just something that took a while to get into. She uses a lot of metaphor, a lot of simile, a lot of very flowery descriptions, and it was good. I enjoyed it. I'll keep reading the series, but I only gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars because it just felt like it took a while for things to happen. I hate thinking, come on, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? I'm hoping that the pace will pick up in the next few books. So these are the 4 physical books that I read for the Holiday Booktubeathon, plus the 5th one, which I've lent out, and an ebook as well. It was really fun to join in with the Booktubeathon. Let me know if you participated in the Booktubeathon this month as well. What were your favourite books that you read during that time? I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.